The notification from my banking app stopped me dead in my tracks. Standing in the middle of my office, coffee growing cold in my hand, I stared at my phone in disbelief. $50,000. Gone. The family reunion fund I'd been building for the past 2 years had been completely drained. I'm Marin, and at 33, I've spent the better part of my adult life being the responsible one, the provider, the sister who always had her act together. While my younger sister, Alana, charmed her way through life, I built a successful business from scratch and became the family's safety net. "Hey, everything okay?" Morgan poked his head into my office, his usual grin fading when he saw my face. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "The money's gone," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "All of it." Morgan stepped inside, closing the door behind him. He shifted uncomfortably, not meeting my eyes. "Listen, Marin, there's something you need to know." That's when my world truly began to crumble. "Alana is getting married this weekend," he said, the words tumbling out quickly. "At the Mountain View Resort. They're calling it a family reunion, but..." He trailed off, watching my reaction carefully. I sank into my chair, pieces clicking into place. "That's impossible." She would have told me. Would she? Morgan raised an eyebrow. "Look, I only know because my cousin works at the resort. She mentioned a Robert's wedding, and when I heard the details..." He shook his head. "I couldn't not tell you." My hands trembled as I pulled up my sister's Instagram. There it was, subtle hints I'd missed. Wedding planning posts disguised as general lifestyle content. Comments from mutual friends about being so excited for this weekend. I dialed my mother's number, my heart pounding. "Hi, sweetie," Mom answered, her voice artificially bright. "Is everything okay?" "Mom, is there something happening this weekend I should know about?" A pause. "Too long. Just the family reunion, dear. You said you couldn't make it, remember? Too busy with work." "I never said that. I never even received an invitation." "Right," I replied, keeping my voice steady. "The reunion, at Mountain View Resort." "Yes, that's right." Another pause. "Listen, honey, I'm in the middle of something. Is Alana getting married?" The silence on the other end was deafening. "Who told you?" she finally asked, her voice sharp. "It was supposed to be a surprise." I laughed, a hollow sound. "A surprise, Mom?" "It's my money paying for this surprise, the family reunion fund. That's what's funding this wedding, isn't it?" "Now, Marin, don't be dramatic. You're always so dramatic about money." I hung up. Morgan was still standing there watching me with concern. "What are you going to do?" I pulled up my Aunt Maeve's number. If anyone would give me straight answers, it would be her. She answered on the second ring. "I was wondering when you'd call," she said softly. "Did you know?" "Yes." At least she was honest. "I wanted to tell you, but Alana insisted it would cause problems. She said you'd try to take over everything, make it about you somehow." "Make it about me?" I stood up, pacing. "It's my money they're using, Aunt Maeve. $50,000 I saved for our actual family reunion. Money I worked for while Alana was..." I stopped myself, breathing hard. "The wedding's in 3 days," Maeve said. "What are you planning?" I looked out my office window, watching the city buzz below. My whole life, I'd played by the rules. Been the good daughter, the supportive sister, the family bank. And this was my reward, being deliberately excluded from my own sister's wedding, paid for with my money. "I'm going to that wedding," I said, my voice steady now, "and I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly who made it possible." "Marin," Maeve's voice held a warning. "No, Aunt Maeve, it's time they learned. Actions have consequences." I ended the call and turned to Morgan. "I need your help." He grinned, a spark of mischief in his eyes. "I thought you'd never ask." "What's the plan?" I grabbed my purse and car keys. "First, we're going shopping. I need the perfect outfit for a wedding I wasn't invited to." As we left the office, my phone buzzed with a text from Alana. Mom said, "You know, please don't ruin this for me. For once, can't you just let me have something?" I smiled, slipping the phone back into my pocket without responding. "Oh, sister dear, you have no idea what's coming." Mountain View Resort lived up to its name, standing proudly with floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing the majestic peaks beyond. I adjusted my emerald green dress, carefully chosen to complement but not match Alana's wedding colors, and strode through the lobby like I belonged there. Name? A perky coordinator held a tablet, scanning the guest list. Oh, I'm family. I smiled sweetly. The bride's sister. Her eyes widened slightly. I don't see you on the list. That must be a mistake. I'm Marin, the maid of honor, actually. She glanced at her tablet. The maid of honor is listed as... Is there a problem here? My mother's voice cut through the conversation. She froze when she saw me, her perfectly made-up face paling. Marin, what are you doing here? Supporting my sister on her big day, of course. I turned to face her fully. Isn't that what family does? Reagan grabbed my arm, pulling me aside. You need to leave. Now you'll ruin everything. Like you ruined my trust, or just my bank account? There you are. Alana's voice rang out across the lobby. She was already in her wedding dress, looking like a princess in white lace. Her smile faltered when she saw me. Marin, you came. Wouldn't miss it for the world, sis. I broke free from my mother's grip. Beautiful dress. I wonder how much of my money paid for it. Alana's face flushed. Can we talk? Privately. She led me to a small preparation room, closing the door behind us. The moment we were alone, her sweet facade crumbled. You're trying to ruin this for me, aren't you? She hissed. Just like you tried to ruin everything. Ruin things? By paying for them? You always do this. She paced the room, her dress swishing. You hold your money over our heads like some kind of weapon, making us feel small. Dependent. I laughed incredulously. Are you seriously trying to make me the villain here? You stole from me, Alana. You and Mom conspired to exclude me from your wedding while using my money to pay for it. We borrowed it, she corrected. We were going to pay you back. When? I stepped closer. With what money? The money you don't have. From the job you can't keep. The door opened, and Eric, my ex, and apparently now Alana's confidant, stepped in. Everything okay in here? He asked. I heard raised voices. Everything's fine, Alana said quickly. Marin was just leaving. Actually, I think I'll stay. I moved toward the door. I'd hate to miss the speeches. I have quite a few stories to share about the happy couple. Eric caught my arm as I passed. Don't do this, Marin. You'll regret it. I yanked my arm away, like I regret dating you, or like I regret trusting my family. As I left the room, I overheard Alana whisper to Eric. She can't know about the other thing. Promise me you won't tell her about Dad's involvement. I paused mid-step. Dad. Our father had passed away 5 years ago. What involvement could he possibly have? Moving through the gathering crowd, I spotted Morgan by the bar. He'd cleaned up nicely in a charcoal suit, and the look he gave me said he had news. You won't believe what I just heard, he muttered, sliding me a glass of champagne. Your sister's fiancé, Caden. He thinks your parents are paying for everything. He has no idea about the money situation. I took a long sip, watching Caden across the room. He was handsome in a conventional way, greeting guests with genuine warmth. He looked like a good guy, maybe too good for my sister. Poor bastard, I murmured. He has no idea what he's marrying into. What's your play here? Morgan asked. Before I could answer, my Aunt Maeve appeared. Marin, honey, please think carefully about what you're doing. Some truths once spoken can't be taken back. They should have thought about that before they lied to me. I finished my champagne. Besides, I heard something interesting just now. Something about Dad being involved somehow. Maeve's face went white. Where did you hear that? So it's true. I studied her reaction. What aren't you telling me, Aunt Maeve? She opened her mouth to respond, but the wedding coordinator's voice cut through the crowd. Everyone, please take your seats. The ceremony is about to begin. We'll talk later, Maeve promised, hurrying away. I watched her retreat, then turned to Morgan. Find out everything you can about Dad's connection to all this, I said. I have a feeling we're just scratching the surface of this family's secrets. As guests filed into the ceremony space, I took a seat in the back row. Let them think I was backing down. The real show wouldn't start until the reception. During the ceremony, I watched my sister float down the aisle on our mother's arm, playing the role of the blushing bride to perfection. Each step was funded by my hard work, every flower and crystal decoration paid for with my stolen money. I gripped my program so tightly it crumpled. After the I do, I circulated through the cocktail hour, eavesdropping on conversations. Guests gushed about the family's generosity, marveling at how the Roberts really went all out for their youngest. If they only knew. Marin? A familiar voice made me turn. Caden stood there, champagne in hand. I didn't know you were coming. Alana said you were too busy with work. Did she? I smiled. Funny how stories get twisted. Congratulations, by the way. Beautiful ceremony. He beamed. Thanks. Your parents really outdid themselves. I tried to contribute, but they insisted on handling everything. How generous of them, I said, my voice dripping with sweetness. Tell me, Caden, has my sister mentioned anything about her financial situation, or our families? His brow furrowed. What do you mean? Before I could respond, my mother materialized between us. Caden, dear, your parents are looking for you. She practically shoved him away before turning on me. Stop it. Right now. Stop what, Mom? Having conversations. Existing. You know exactly what you're doing. She grabbed my elbow, steering me toward an empty hallway. Why can't you just be happy for your sister? Happy? I yanked my arm free. You want me to be happy about theft? It wasn't theft. It was... She lowered her voice. It was what? What Dad would have wanted? Reagan's face closed off. Nothing. Forget I said anything. No, you don't get to do that. I blocked her path. First Alana and Eric, now you. What aren't you telling me about Dad? There you two are, Aunt Maeve's voice cut through the tension. Reagan, the photographer, wants family photos. My mother practically fled. Maeve watched her go, then turned to me with worried eyes. You need to be careful, Marin. You're pulling at threads that could unravel everything. Good, I snapped. Let it unravel. I'm tired of being the only one holding everything together. Morgan appeared, slightly out of breath. You need to hear this, he said, pulling me aside. I've been talking to some of the older guests. Apparently, your dad had a secret insurance policy, one that only paid out if certain conditions were met. What conditions? I'm still working on that part, but get this, the policy was worth exactly $50,000. My head spun. The exact amount that was in my family reunion fund. Yeah. Morgan glanced around. And guess who was the beneficiary? Alana, I whispered. Bingo. The pieces were starting to fit together, but the picture they formed made no sense. Why would Dad have a secret policy for Alana? Why did it match my stolen money exactly? I spotted Eric watching us from across the room. When our eyes met, he quickly looked away and headed for the terrace. I followed. Spill it, I demanded, cornering him outside. What do you know about Dad's insurance policy? He lit a cigarette, hands shaking slightly. I shouldn't be talking to you about this. You owe me, Eric, after everything. He took a long drag. Your dad, he made some mistakes, Marin. Bad investments. Loans from the wrong people. The insurance was supposed to fix things, but what? The policy wouldn't pay out unless Alana was married before she turned 30. He wouldn't meet my eyes. She turns 30 next month. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. So this whole wedding was rushed to meet the deadline? Yeah. He finally looked at me. But your sister really does love Caden. That part's real. I leaned against the railing, processing. And my money? The fund? They needed it for the wedding expenses. The policy hasn't paid out yet. He crushed his cigarette under his shoe. Look, I know it's messed up, but they were desperate. Your dad's debts. There are people waiting for that money. Before I could respond, Caden appeared in the doorway. There you are, Caden said, looking between us in confusion. Marin, could we talk for a minute? I straightened up, smoothing my dress. Of course. As I followed Caden inside, my mind raced. This wasn't just about a stolen fund anymore. This was about Dad's secrets, Mom's lies and Alana's desperate race against time. The question was, what would hurt more, keeping these secrets or exposing them? The reception was about to begin, and I had a decision to make. Caden led me to a quiet corner of the reception hall, his face etched with concern. I just had an interesting conversation with one of the vendors, he said. They mentioned something about payment issues and a family reunion fund. Before I could respond, Morgan appeared at my side, tablet in hand. Sorry to interrupt, he said smoothly, but Marin, you need to see this. On the screen was a scan of an old insurance document. Dad's signature was clearly visible at the bottom, along with a handwritten note. For my little princess when she needs it most. Where did you get this? I asked. Your Aunt Maeve, Morgan replied. She's been keeping it safe, waiting for the right moment. Caden peered at the screen. What's that? The truth, I said, just as the DJ announced it was time for speeches. And speaking of truth, I believe it's my turn to say a few words about the happy couple. Marin, Caden grabbed my arm. What's going on? Ask your new wife, I said, pulling away and heading for the microphone. My mother's face drained of color as I took the stage. Alana, seated at the head table, gripped her champagne glass so tightly I thought it might shatter. For those who don't know me, I began, my voice steady. I'm Marin, the bride's sister. The uninvited sister, actually. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. But that's okay because I'm still here. Just like my money is here funding this entire celebration. Marin, don't! Alana stood up, panic flashing in her eyes, but I continued. You see, this beautiful wedding was paid for with $50,000 from my family reunion fund. Money I saved. Money that was taken without my knowledge or permission. I held up Morgan's tablet. But here's the interesting part. I scanned the crowd, then looked straight at Caden. That amount exactly matches a secret insurance policy our father left for Alana. A policy that only pays out if she marries before her 30th birthday, which, coincidentally, is next month. The room erupted in whispers. Caden's face shifted, from confusion to comprehension, then horror. So, I have to ask sis. I turned to Alana. Is this really about love, or is it about Daddy's money and his mysterious debts? That's enough. Reagan rushed toward the stage, but Morgan blocked her path. No, Mom, I projected my voice over the chaos. It's not enough. Tell them about Dad's debts. Tell them about the people waiting for this insurance payout. Tell them why you really needed my money to make this wedding happen right now. Alana burst into tears, mascara streaming down her face. You don't understand, she sobbed. They were going to take everything. Who was going to take everything? Caden demanded, standing up. Alana, what is she talking about? The loan sharks. Eric spoke up from his table. Your father-in-law borrowed money from some dangerous people. This insurance payout is to clear those debts. The room fell silent. Caden stared at his new wife in disbelief. You married me to pay off your father's gambling debts. No, Alana cried. I love you. The timing was just convenient. I watched it all unravel, feeling strangely hollow. This wasn't the satisfaction I had expected. Ladies and gentlemen, I said into the microphone, I apologize for disrupting this celebration of love and deceit. Please, enjoy the cake. I paused, locking eyes with Alana. I paid for that too. As I stepped down, Aunt Maeve caught my arm. There's more, she whispered. The insurance policy. It's not just about the money. There's a letter your father left with it. Something he wanted Alana to know only after she was married. What does it say? Before she could answer, Alana's scream cut through the room. You've ruined everything, she shrieked. Just like you always do. She lunged at me, but Caden caught her around the waist. The only thing ruined here is the truth you tried to bury, I said calmly. Now, about that letter. Not here. Aunt Maeve glanced around nervously. Meet me in my room in 10 minutes. Room 412. As she hurried away, Morgan appeared at my side. Well, he said, smirking. That was quite a show. It's not over yet, I said, watching Caden storm out of the reception hall with Alana running after him in her white dress. Dad had left one more secret for us to uncover. My mother stood alone at the head table, tears streaming down her face. For a moment, our eyes met across the room. In that look, I saw something I'd never seen before: fear. What had Dad written in that letter? And more importantly, was I ready to learn the truth about the man we all thought we knew? "Come on," I said to Morgan. "We have an appointment with the past." The elevator ride to the 4th floor felt endless. Morgan kept checking his phone, showing me the chaos unfolding on social media as wedding guests shared their versions of what had happened. "Your sister's trending locally," he said with a low whistle. Not in a good way. Room 412's door opened before we could knock. Aunt Maeve pulled us inside, checking the hallway before closing it. "Reagan's on her way up," she said, her hands shaking as she retrieved an envelope from her purse. "We don't have much time." "Just give me the letter," I said, reaching for it. She pulled back. "Marin, you need to understand something first. Your father—" The door burst open. My mother stood there, mascara streaked down her face, looking more desperate than I'd ever seen her. "Don't you dare," she said to Maeve. "We swore we'd never tell them." "Tell us what?" I demanded. "What's in that letter?" "The truth about your father," Maeve said softly. "About who he really was." "He was a gambling addict," I said. "We already know that." "No." Reagan's voice cracked. "He was a thief. He stole from his company, from his partners. The gambling debts were just a cover story." Morgan stepped between us as I moved toward my mother. "What are you talking about?" "The insurance policy wasn't really insurance," Maeve explained, finally opening the envelope. "It was money he'd hidden away, stolen money. He knew they'd come looking for it eventually." My hands trembled as I took the letter. Dad's familiar handwriting filled the page. "My dearest Alana, if you're reading this, you fulfilled the condition I set, marriage before 30. I'm sorry for the burden I've placed on you, but I needed to ensure this money would be protected until the statute of limitations expired. The $50,000 is clean now, legally yours. Use it to start fresh, to escape the mess I've made. I chose you for this because you're like me. You understand that sometimes the end justifies the means. Marin is too much like your mother, too rigid in her morality. Protect her from this truth. She wouldn't understand. All my love, Dad." The paper slipped from my fingers. "He thought I was too moral." I laughed, a harsh, empty sound. "While Alana was just immoral enough? He was trying to protect you," Mom insisted. "By making me the family ATM, by letting Alana steal from me." "That wasn't part of the plan," Maeve interjected. "The stolen money was supposed to stay hidden until after the wedding, but when the venue demanded full payment up front, they got desperate," Morgan finished. "So they used your money as a bridge loan." A commotion in the hallway drew our attention. Alana burst in, her wedding dress askew, face streaked with tears. "Caden's gone," she sobbed. "He left. He's demanding an annulment." "Good for him," I said coldly. "This is all your fault," she screamed, lunging at me. Morgan caught her mid-stride. "You couldn't let me have this one thing?" "One thing?" I stepped closer, Morgan still restraining her. "You've had everything. Dad's favor, Mom's protection, my money." "I had Dad's burden," she shot back. "His secrets, his shame. Do you know what it's like carrying that around?" "Girls, please." Reagan tried to intervene. "No, Mom." I turned on her. "You don't get to play peacemaker now. You knew about Dad's crimes. You knew about the stolen money. You let me work myself to the bone supporting this family while protecting his precious legacy. I was protecting both of you. By letting her steal from me, we were going to pay you back." Alana said suddenly, her voice quieter. "With the insurance money. Dad's money. It was always meant for family anyway." "That's your justification?" I scoffed. "That stealing from me was okay because we're family?" A sharp knock at the door silenced us all. Eric stood there looking grim. "The police are downstairs," he said. "Someone at the reception called them about the fraud allegations. They want to talk to everyone." Reagan sank onto the bed, head in her hands. Alana started crying again. Maeve clutched Dad's letter, looking between us all helplessly. "Well," I said, smoothing my dress. I took a breath. "I guess it's time for the whole truth to come out. All of it." "Marin, please." Reagan reached for me. "Think about what this will do to our family." I looked at my mother, then at my sister, then at the letter that had shattered our carefully constructed lies. Our family, I said quietly. Our family was built on lies, Mom. Maybe it's time to build something new, something honest. The sound of footsteps in the hallway grew closer. We all stood frozen, waiting for the knock that would change everything. The police interview room felt colder than the rest of the hotel. Detective Torres sat across from me, reviewing my statement about the missing funds. "Let me get this straight," she said, tapping her pen against her notepad. "Your father set up a fake insurance policy as a way to launder stolen money, and your sister and mother used your personal funds to finance a wedding that would trigger the payout." "That's correct." "And you have documentation of all this?" Morgan, who had insisted on staying with me as a witness, pulled out his tablet. "Everything's here. Bank statements, the original insurance document, and Mr. Roberts' letter explaining the scheme." The detective reviewed the evidence, her expression growing grimmer. "This goes beyond simple family fraud. We're looking at potential money laundering, corporate theft, and conspiracy." Through the interview room's window, I could see Alana in the next room, still in her wedding dress, sobbing as she gave her statement. Mom sat in the lobby, looking shell-shocked as officers took statements from wedding guests. "What happens now?" I asked. "That depends." Detective Torres leaned forward. "Are you pressing charges?" The question hung in the air. Before I could answer, Caden appeared at the door with another officer. "Sorry to interrupt," he said, looking exhausted, "but I think you need to hear this." He sat down next to me. "Alana just told me everything. Not just about the wedding and the money, but about what happened 3 years ago with your father's company." Detective Torres raised an eyebrow. "Go on." "The company didn't just go bankrupt," Caden explained. "Your father orchestrated a massive embezzlement scheme, multiple shell companies, fake invoices, the works. The $50,000 was just a small part of it." "How do you know all this?" I asked. "Because I'm a forensic accountant," he replied. "That's how Alana and I met. I was actually investigating companies connected to your father's case." He hesitated. He paused, swallowing hard. "She got close to me deliberately, hoping to throw me off the trail." The revelation hit me like a punch to the gut. "So, your whole relationship was a lie?" "Not entirely," he said softly. "But enough of it was." Detective Torres was scribbling rapidly. "Mr. Rivera, we'll need your official statement." A commotion outside drew our attention. Aunt Maeve was arguing with an officer, waving what looked like another envelope. "Let her in," I said quickly. May rushed in, out of breath. "There's more," she said, handing me the envelope. "Your father left this with his lawyer to be delivered if certain events occurred. It arrived at my house yesterday." Inside was a USB drive and another letter. This one was different. It was a confession, detailed and damning, naming names, listing accounts. "He knew he was dying," Maeve explained. "The cancer diagnosis came right after the investigation started. This was his insurance policy, not the money, but the truth. He wanted to protect his partners in crime unless they turned on his family." Detective Torres took the USB drive. "This could break open several cold cases." My phone buzzed. A text from Morgan, who had stepped out earlier. "Turn on the news." Now someone found a remote and switched on the room's small TV. The local news was showing live footage of police raids at multiple locations. The headline scrolled, "Major financial fraud ring exposed. Multiple arrests in progress." "Those are Dad's old business partners," I whispered, recognizing some of the names. "They've been watching them for years," Caden explained. "Just waiting for evidence like this." Another officer appeared at the door. "Detective, we need you." I stood up. "I want to hear this." In the lobby, my mother sat straight-backed, composed despite her smeared makeup. When she saw me, something in her broke. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice cracking. "I thought I was protecting our family's reputation. Your father, he convinced me it was for the best, that the truth would destroy us all. The lies destroyed us, Mom. The truth might save us." Alana appeared, escorted by officers, her once perfect wedding dress now wrinkled and tear-stained. "They're saying I could face charges," she said, looking terrified. "Marin, please." I turned to Detective Torres. "If I don't press charges for the stolen funds, what happens?" "They'll still face consequences for their roles in the larger scheme," she said. "But their cooperation could help their cases." I looked at my family, my mother's desperate face, my sister's ruined wedding dress, my aunt's tired eyes. Then I looked at Morgan, who'd stood by me through everything, and Caden, who'd chosen truth over love. I won't press charges, I said finally, but I want the whole truth to come out. All of it. Detective Torres nodded. We need you all downtown for formal statements. As officers began organizing transport, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the lobby's mirrors. I looked different, somehow stronger, clearer, free of the weight of family secrets. The truth had shattered us, but maybe, just maybe, it could also set us free. The next 48 hours passed in a blur of police statements, news reports, and endless cups of precinct coffee. I sat in the waiting area while my mother and sister were processed, Morgan steadfast beside me. Miss Roberts? A legal aide approached with a stack of papers. We've frozen the accounts connected to the insurance policy, but we've managed to recover your personal funds. You'll just need to sign here. As I signed, the TV overhead blared another update. Breaking news, corporate fraud investigation expands. 3 more executives arrested. Turn that off, Aunt Maeve called from across the room. She looked exhausted, having spent hours helping investigators piece together Dad's paper trail. The doors opened and Alana emerged, escorted by her lawyer. Her designer wedding dress had been replaced by borrowed clothes that hung loose on her frame. Our eyes met, and for the first time in years, I saw my sister without her masks. Can we talk? She asked quietly. Morgan squeezed my hand and stepped away, giving us space. I don't even know where to start, Alana said, sinking into a chair beside me. I've been lying for so long, I'm not sure I remember how to tell the truth. Try starting with why, I said. Why did you let Dad pull you into this? She twisted her hands in her lap. He made me feel special, like I was the only one who could help him. You were always so perfect, successful, independent. I was just the pretty one, the charming one. But Dad made me feel smart, trusted, important. By making you his accomplice? By making me his confidant. Her voice cracked. When he got sick, he said I was the only one who could protect the family, that you were too honest, too ethical to do what needed to be done. And look how well that turned out. I know. She wiped her eyes. The worst part is, I really did love Caden. Still do. But I ruined it. Just like I ruin everything. Before I could respond, our mother appeared, looking smaller than I had ever seen her. Her lawyer was explaining something about cooperation agreements and reduced charges, but she wasn't listening. She was staring at the TV screen where Dad's old photo was being shown next to the word, mastermind. Mom, I called out. She turned, tears streaming down her face. I should have told you both the truth years ago, she whispered. When I first discovered what your father was doing. Maybe then what? I stood up. Maybe then we could have been accomplices sooner. Maybe then we could have helped him steal more. Marin, Aunt Maeve warned. No, she needs to hear this. I faced my mother. You didn't protect us by lying. You taught us that love means covering up crimes. That family loyalty means betraying our own values. I never meant. I know what you meant. I cut her off. But intent doesn't change impact. Eric smoothed his rumpled suit. They want to talk to me again about the offshore accounts, but first. He pulled out his phone. Caden asked me to give you this message. Alana grabbed the phone, reading quickly. Her face crumpled. The annulment papers are ready, she whispered. He's not pressing charges, but he never wants to see me again. Morgan returned with fresh coffee. The press is outside, they're calling it the Wedding Gate Scandal. Local news is having a field day. Let them, I said. No more hiding. No more secrets. Detective Torres approached our group. We're ready for the final statements. After that, you're free to go. Mrs. Roberts, Miss Roberts. She nodded to my mother and sister. Your lawyers will be in touch about the cooperation agreements. As they were led away, Aunt Maeve touched my arm. Your father left one more thing with me, a letter for you, written the day before he died. She held out an envelope, worn at the edges like she'd carried it for a long time. I didn't give it to you earlier because, well, I wasn't sure if you'd want it. My name was written in Dad's familiar scrawl. Do you want to read it? Morgan asked gently. I stared at the envelope, feeling the weight of all the lies it might contain. Then I walked to the nearest trash can and dropped it in. No, I said. I'm done letting his words control this family. Aunt Maeve smiled sadly. You really are nothing like him. Thank God for that. I turned to Morgan. Let's get out of here. I need air. As we walked toward the exit, past the gathering reporters and flashing cameras, I heard Alana call out. Marin, wait. She ran up, looking desperate. What happens now? To us? To the family? I looked at my sister. Really looked at her. Not the glamorous bride or the skilled manipulator, but a scared woman finally facing reality. Now, I said. Now we learn how to be honest with ourselves and each other. It won't be easy, but it's the only way forward. The precinct doors opened, and the camera flashes hit us like lightning. It was time to face the world, and the truth, together. The autumn wind whipped around us as Morgan helped me carry the last box from my mother's house. The for sale sign in the front yard swayed, its sold sticker bright against the fading light. That's the last of it, I said, closing the moving truck's door. Everything else goes to auction next week. My phone buzzed. A text from Alana. Just finished my community service shift. Can we talk? Go, Morgan said, noting my hesitation. I'll handle the truck. This is important. I found Alana at the small coffee shop where she now worked part-time. Her designer clothes were gone, replaced by simple jeans and a sweater. The court-mandated ankle monitor peeked out below her hem. Thanks for coming, she said, sliding me a cup. I wanted you to know first. I got accepted into the accounting program, starting next semester. Really? I raised an eyebrow. That's unexpected. She smiled weakly. Turns out I'm good with numbers. Just need to use that power for good instead of evil this time. How's Mom handling the house sale? Better than expected. The money will help pay the restitution. She paused. Have you visited her yet? I shook my head. Mom's 6-month sentence had started last week. Not ready. She asks about you. Says she's finally seeing a therapist in there, dealing with everything Dad put us through. The bell above the door chimed, and Aunt Maeve walked in carrying a familiar-looking box. Found this while helping with the house, she said, setting it down. Thought you both should see it. Inside were photos, hundreds of them. Our family through the years, before the lies, before Dad's schemes, birthday parties, school plays, family vacations. Look at this one. Alana picked up a photo of us as kids covered in mud from a rainstorm. Remember how mad Mom got about the carpet? Remember how Dad convinced her it was good luck to have muddy children? I found myself smiling, despite everything. He wasn't always bad, Maeve said softly. The man in these photos, that was real too. The good doesn't erase the bad, I said. But my voice had lost its edge. No, Alana agreed. But maybe understanding both helps us heal. My phone buzzed again. Detective Torres. Final paperwork is ready. Your testimony helped secure 3 more convictions. Thank you, the detective said. They've recovered most of Dad's hidden assets. I told them they're setting up a victim restitution fund. I heard. Alana nodded. Caden's firm is handling the disbursement. She swallowed hard. He still won't talk to me, but at least he's helping make things right. The coffee shop door opened again, and Morgan entered with Eric. They'd been working together, helping investigators track down the last of Dad's accomplices. Just got word, Eric announced. They found the last offshore account. It's over. Is it? I looked at the photos spread across the table. Sometimes, I feel like we'll be dealing with Dad's legacy forever. Not his legacy, Maeve corrected. Your legacy. All of yours. Look at what you've done, helped expose corruption, made amends, started healing. That's the new family legacy. Alana reached across the table, tentatively taking my hand. I know I don't deserve forgiveness yet, she said, but I'm trying to earn it, to be someone you can trust again. I squeezed her hand, surprising myself. Trust takes time, but trying counts for something. Morgan sat beside me, examining a photo. You know, despite everything, you two still look alike when you smile. God help me, I laughed, and after a moment, Alana joined in. It felt rusty, unfamiliar, but real. The auction company needs the photos cataloged, Maeve said. Which ones do you want to keep? I looked at the scattered memories, the truth and lies, joy and pain, all mixed together like the mud on our childhood clothes. Let's sort through them together, I said. Keep the real moments. Let go of the staged ones. Like a family? Alana asked quietly. Like people learning to be a family, I corrected. Honestly, this time? Outside, the autumn wind continued to blow, scattering leaves across the sidewalk. Inside, surrounded by coffee and memories, we began the slow work of rebuilding. Not what was lost, but something new, something true. Hey! Morgan nudged me, pointing to a photo of me and Alana at her high school graduation. You're both laughing in this one, real or staged. I studied our younger faces, remembering that day. Real, I said finally. Some things even Dad couldn't fake. Alana smiled, and for the first time since the wedding, I saw my sister, instead of our father's daughter. We had a long way to go, but at least now we were walking in the light. If I've learned anything from this mess, it's that the truth always surfaces, no matter how deeply it's buried. Families aren't built on shared blood or last names, but on honesty, trust, and the willingness to make things right. Lies only delay the inevitable, and when they unravel, they leave destruction in their wake. I spent years carrying burdens that weren't mine, believing that responsibility meant sacrifice, that love meant silence. But real love, real family, doesn't demand you break yourself to keep others whole. It took losing everything to realize that rebuilding isn't about restoring the past. It's about creating something better. No matter how far gone you think you are, change is possible. Healing is possible, but it starts with truth, no matter how painful. So if you're holding on to secrets, ask yourself, are you protecting someone or are you just afraid of facing what's real? Because the truth always wins.